get my 6. So you can put me in a room with 100 relatively normal people, whatever that means, and introduce crazy through the side door, and within minutes, either I'll find crazy or crazy will find me. I have a story for you that takes me back 25 years, and I had completely repressed this, and I got chills this morning when I remembered this. I'm going to share it with you, and we're going to do something a little bit different today as I do. As you can tell, the meadow behind me is really growing up. We're really trying to reforest this part of our property. It's about a 3-acre portion on the back that had been used as a hayfield for 1,000 years. And some of these trees, that first shot, I don't know if you could tell, but the poplar trees were 7-8 feet tall after 4 years of growth of not being cut for hay. I heard it. Certain entities are able to take cover in these meadows now and move around undetected. So keep getting my 6 and let's see if we can see them. So here's what's going on. Here's the story. Thanks to you guys, thanks to my loyal, faithful viewers, my writing career has been reignited. And yes, I am a writer. And yes, you can purchase my books in ebook format or print. I'll put the link in the description of this video for Amazon at least. But as of this morning, I actually started making them available again. Barnes & Noble for the Nook readers and other outlets and all sorts. Oh, I'm taking rights back from print publishers I'd set up deals with years ago who's been screwing me out of royalties. It's crazy. I'm getting to the story in 30 seconds or less, okay? But I just recently, you try to overcome certain challenges in life. You try to overcome certain belief systems that you had erroneously drilled into your head. And one of those belief systems in my case was that I was only worth the bare minimum. And I should be thankful and grateful, and I should grovel to anyone from whom I can get the bare minimum. But anything above that, I'm just, who am I to think I'm worth that? I need to get off my high horse before I get taken down a few more notches because I'm just, whatever. It took me, when I hit 40, I stood up and said no more. And anyone who would ever even believe of introducing such insanity into my head was expelled from my life, will remain expelled from my life forevermore. And any new people who would expect me to think that are not allowed in my life. It's that simple. Now, with this said, I was reminded of how I used to think this when I started going back through some of these publishing contracts. Now that, I've started publishing again for the first time in years with great success because of the great people who watch this channel who are actually going out there and purchasing what I write and reading it. They're saying, I like his videos. I like the stories he tells orally. I'll check out some of the stuff he's written. And thank you for doing that. So anyway, I'm going back through these old contracts, realizing I'm giving away thousands upon thousands of copies of, because, through the years, I'm like, this makes no sense. I poured my heart and soul into this. Where's the rewards of these efforts? Well, I'm giving them away. And I can't blame the publishers. I blame my old mindset that was drilled in me since my creation, that I was only worth the bare minimum because I was lower than well done. Because I was born, simply, but and I should grovel at the knee. If somebody would allow me to do a hard day's work for them without pay, I should be thankful that they allowed me to do that work for them. And who am I to think I'm worthy of being rewarded for my efforts? I need to get off my high horse. Okay, so anyway, I traced this back. I knew the source, but when I decided to change who I allowed in my life 6 years ago, I didn't go back and change contracts. So I'm doing that now. And 2 days ago, I went for a mountain bike ride, and I hope you're still getting my six. And I was tracing it back to the source. And I remembered a time when I was in college. My first 2 years of college, I didn't really have to worry about money because I had a track scholarship. But I quit the track team, quit the cross country team because the coach was, I was passionate about running. That's why I was good at it. But running became a profession. I was constantly reminded that I was being paid to do this by way of tuition waivers and whatnot. So I'd better be hitting these split stern practices. I better be, it turned something I loved into something I didn't hate, but something that I didn't enjoy. So I quit the track team, and then I did go on to graduate college, but I had to take out student loans, and I had to work. And at times I worked 40 hours a week while taking full course loads of college work. So I remember when I was trying to get jobs, I went out, I applied for several jobs, and I got called back from all of them. And 2 were offering minimum wage, and 1 was a server's position in a restaurant. And let me tell you, if you have an outgoing personality and you're not like completely ugly, you can make bank waiting tables. A lot of you out there have done it. A lot of you out there watching this are probably still doing it. I mean, you can make, I know of teachers who, when they get summers off, they'll go down, I'm on the East Coast, I'm in Virginia, they'll go down to the Outer Banks of North Carolina and wait tables down there through the summer and make as much money in the summer as they make teaching. I know, and I almost at one point considered dropping out of college. I'm thankful I didn't, to do just that. Maybe go to like a tourist hotspot, Outer Banks, maybe down in Florida, Myrtle Beach. But I finished my education, and so I ended up taking this server's position, and this all came up because one of the sources in my life, when they were sitting there beside me when I got the phone call from, it was Kroger. They wanted me to work midnight stock shift, come in nights and resupply the shelves for minimum wage, which back in those days was $5.25. And I wasn't going to do it because I was still in college during the day. And $5.25, after I paid for gas, there was nothing left for me except exhaustion. And I got the lecture about who did I think I was? Do I actually think I'm better than $5.25? Yeah, I do think I'm better than $5.25. So, and I did at the time, fortunately. So I took the server's position, and we're going to enter the woods now, folks. So continue to get my six. I've been down here talking enough in the meadow to where him, her, it, or they, who may or may not live in the forest behind my woods, or in the forest behind my house, they know we're out here. They're watching. Of course, they always are. Potentially. So, I start waiting tables at this restaurant, and everything's going. I'm seeing these baby praying mantises everywhere. I'm being careful where I step. We've had a hatch. They're everywhere. If you watch any of my beautiful bride Dearly, aka Giggly Girls videos, on her channel, Life with Dearly, we're always picking them up and showing them in those videos. They're all over our garden. They're all over everything. So I'm working there, this is 25 years ago. This would have been 1995-ish. So a quarter of a century ago. Let's sit right here, get my six. And I'm working with a bunch of other young people. I was early 20s, maybe 22. Most of the servers were in their 20s. A couple were up to mid 30s. Well, I had a P.O. box, and this is what is really strange. At the time, I was a college student, so every year I lived somewhere different apartments. I spent my first year in the dorms on campus. After that, I was off campus. So I had a P.O. box for mail. Well, one day I go to my P.O. box, and I had a card, like a card you'd get from a grocery store, like a greeting card, and it was something about, I love to come eat at the restaurant and watch you work. You are such a hard worker, and you're such a good-looking guy. You are the kind of guy that basically, and this is 25 years ago. I can't remember the specifics, but it was signed, your secret admirer. So here I was, not realizing it at the time, but being stalked. But of course I was flattered. I thought, wow, I got a secret admirer, I'm going to have to go deeper into these woods, see if we can get a better shot of any potential secret admirers back in here, because we're not getting a lot of clear visibility over here. So I didn't think much of it at first until it happened again. About a week later, I got another card, and this time it was more detailed, and it did become creepy because my quote-unquote secret admirer was more detailed about themselves. And it wasn't, you know, maybe some cute, shy girl in her early 20s. It was a woman who claimed to be in her 60s. And this time she's going on and on about how she's rich, she's wealthy, she had a rich husband who died years ago, and she loved to travel, she loved to go to Europe, and she needed a good-looking, strong buck like me to carry her bags for her around Europe. And she hopped all around Europe. And so she wanted to know if I'd be interested in to think about it. And she said, oh, by the way, I come in to see you every night, and I'll be there tonight. I want you to see if you can figure out who I am. Well, man, that's when things got really weird, because I went to work that night, and I would go to work night after night just wondering which one of these, you know, older ladies, and at the time I was in my 20s. Okay, 60's not that old now because I'm 46. I call them, you know, older women, older ladies. Back then, that was real old for a 22-year-old kid. I'm thinking, wow, which one of these creepy old women are like stalking me? And I mean, it was nerve-wracking. I would drop dishes, I would break plates. You know, manager would yell at me. So after I got like a third card, very similar along the lines of that, and they upped the ante a little bit. It was, ha ha ha, I know you still haven't figured me out. I watch you fumbling all over yourself while you're trying to figure out who I am when I come in. And under this, some of you have probably been in this position, and when you are, you think everybody's staring at you. It just got really quiet. Maybe him, her, it, or they took offense to what was just said. I'm not talking about you. This is something similar from 25 years ago. All right, the birds picked back up. So I had to talk to somebody about this, right? I remember our floor manager was a waitress. She wasn't 30, but she was close. Her name was Tina, okay? So I went to Tina one night, and I'm like, I got something really weird going on, and I don't know what to do about it, but I just kind of like, maybe you can help me with this. And, you know, and it was a chain of command thing too. I liked Tina. I mean, we always were cordial and pleasant, and she was my immediate supervisor. So I told her about it. I told her about the cards, and she's like, wow, that's really creepy. She's like, I'll see if I can help you figure this out. And so over the next several nights, next couple of weeks, Tina's trying to help me figure it out. And she's like, maybe it's her over there. Maybe it's her over there. And it was kind of making things worse, you know. And then another card came, the fourth or fifth. I don't remember exactly how many I got, but it was like, ha ha ha, I can see that you've enlisted help to try to figure out who I am. And it's like, I'm having so much fun with you. This is more entertaining than if I would actually be involved with you. I think I no longer want to be with you. I don't want you carrying my bags around Europe, but I'm going to continue this game because it's so much fun. So I go back to work, and the owner of the restaurant, retired Marine, I liked the guy. He was gruff and rough. Was he World War II generation? He might have been. No, I think he was in the Korean War. But he had grit. He might not have been the nicest guy in the world, but he had what I wanted. That was backbone. That was confidence. He was accomplished. I mean, he owned this restaurant he had for many, many years. He was a self-made man. Well, he called me in the office, and he was old at the time. I mean, I'm sure he's no longer among the living, but he was still very intimidating. So he calls me in, and he starts banging his fists on the desk in his office. He goes, I want to know what in the, Hell you got. I don't cuss on this channel. I'm sorry to misspell the word, or to spell the word. I don't use language like that. I used to. Well, I do in my books, don't I? Boy, you got to read some of those. So anyway, he's like, I don't hire pimps. Are you running some sort of prostitution ring in here? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I know you're in here trying to pick up these old women with money and blah, 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 blah. And you're not allowed to work here anymore. He fired me. I'm like, I just remembered his last name. It was Mr. Wilson. I said, Mr. Wilson, I'm not in here trying to pick up rich old women. I think there's a rich old woman in here trying to pick me up. He says, I don't want to hear it. You get out of here. You do not come back here. You are never going to work here again. I don't run a house of prostitution. He used another term. And so I left, and I went home, and I was upset. I'd never been fired. And so I got the cards together. I'd kept them. I mean, most people, I guess, would maybe go to the police. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. And this is kind of like a double standard. When you're a male, and these things happen to you, maybe you take it different. You kind of feel like a sissy for going to the proper authorities because you're supposed to be machado and not, you've seen those social experiments where, like, they'll have just in public at random, they'll have a guy act like he's slapping a girl around and everybody jumps in and saves the damsel in distress. And then the guy, of course, is like, no, it's a social experiment. And then the second screening will show the girl slapping the guy around, and no one jumps in to save the guy. Everybody laughs and giggles and snickers while the guy's getting you know what I mean? It's like a double standard when it comes to this sort of thing, at least in America. Well, probably everywhere. I don't know. So I still had the cards because I'd never taken them in any sort of authority. So I go back to the restaurant the next day, and I say, Mr. Wilson, look, here's the proof. Here's the evidence. Read this. You'll see that I'm not in here trying to pimp myself out to these rich old ladies. I got a stalker in here, and it's been going on for a couple of months. I don't know who it is, but I need this job. I'm working my way through college. So he reads through the cards in the order in which they were mailed to me, and he looked straight up, and he went, Tina. He said, Kevin, you go outside and wait. And he goes out into the floor. He goes, Tina! Drags her into the office. I just hear screaming, the door's shut, I can't make out what's being said. She leaves, comes out of the door, crying, stomping off, just leaves. Mr. Wilson says, Kevin, come back in here. And he goes, you can start your job again tonight. I'm sorry about all this. I'm like, what just happened? I don't understand what's going on. This is when I found out who my creepy stalker was. It was Tina. Yeah. She was just crazy. I mean, like I said, you put me in a room with 100 normal people, whatever that is, and then you introduce crazy through the side door, and either I'll find crazy or crazy will find me within minutes. But it was this girl, this coworker. This is how she was able to get my P.O. box. This is how she knew my address. She could get into the files at work because she was the floor manager. She was in charge of all the servers. She was doing this. I never saw her again. Never got to ask her why. I don't know if it was for fun, if she was just nuts, if maybe she did have a crush on me, if maybe she didn't like me, and so she wanted to mind screw me. But that was creepy. And I remembered that, of course, while I was going over this stuff about working on changing these contracts where I've been giving away thousands of copies of my books over the last few years. I'm worth being paid. Isn't this story worth something? It's worth a couple cents. So anyway, please check out my books in ebook and print form on Amazon. The link's in the description of this box. They are becoming made available on Barnes & Noble, slowly but surely, and we're still working on the next one. Things have changed. No more creepy stalkers. Potentially.